This video has been produced in association with Square Enix. Hello and welcome to a quick look at Outriders. A huge thank you to People Can Fly for making this game and to Square Enix for inviting me to come and check it out. Quick note, Outriders is still in development, so please be aware there are still some tweaks to be made before the final product, and also my capture footage did not come out. So unfortunately this video is using predominantly B-roll, but I will reinforce what I will say throughout the video, that I had a lot of fun with it. The co-op worked really well on the gameplay side, and I will absolutely be playing this on launch, and hopefully we will check out the co-op further at that point as well. Anyway, let's get into the video. If you're new to the premise of Outriders, here's the gist. Whilst hunting for a mysterious signal that might save the human race, we tried to colonise a planet and ballsed it up, the planet Enoch. A huge planetary event, known as the Anomaly, ripped through the expedition party, affecting and changing some of them in a similar manner to Marvel's Day Zero or Starlab's particle explosion in DC's Flash. These altered individuals are few and far between, but some may have answers as to what the signal holds. Some do want to help humanity survive the aftermath of the Anomaly, like yourselves, but some just want to watch the world burn. Outriders is a shooter with RPG elements, including extensive character and gear progression, along with the option of having two friends along for the journey, because it's a 3-player co-op. Oh yes. I had an absolute whale of a time, which was made even more awesome by having Radders join me for my session, which meant we did test out some of the co-op, and it was a lot of fun, including seeing your friends in your in-game cutscenes. More information on that at launch. We definitely want to play it on Twitch, maybe get some G in as well. It's going to be sweet. Regarding co-op functionality, it was fluid and it worked. I didn't see Radders rubber banding across the screen horribly or timing out on me, but I do have to play devil's advocate and point out it's a small scale LAN setup versus the final product, so I can't necessarily give you a proper experience of co-op until Outriders is actually out, because obviously it's not representative of the way we would all be playing it, and it's only, like 10 people playing it at once in a small space versus everyone in the world trying to play it, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But there was a really great voting system for things like fast travelling or helping suggest the next quest on the list. None of it was reinventing the wheel, but it was very easy to understand and use, and I liked it. One thing I do want to briefly mention that I didn't like before we start going through what is basically oodles of praise for the rest of the video, I wasn't a fan of the map. Again, it's still being worked on, so it's not the final version, but the current map only shows the zones you're in versus tracking you within those zones. So I'm hoping they give that a little tweak just to make it a bit more legible at a glance. It's not Doom 2016 Fallen Order levels of confusing, which is just a 3D mess of neon with Metroid stamped all over it. It's just a bit vague in its current state, and I'm a little bit of a lazy map reader, so it would be nice if that was a bit clearer, but that's literally my only complaint in this entire video. So yeah, RPG elements. There's a leveling system with a skill tree. Gear and weapons have stats and minimal levels, as well as rarity colours. You can craft new parts, dismantle old ones for resources to make more new parts, level up something that's really good, change out power boosting mods depending on your build. It's a really nice meaty setup. It gives you a lot of range for tinkering with items. Character and vehicle appearances can also be customised to your own personal preferences, including emotes. So you can really ship your own setup that feels and looks exactly like what you want it to be. Characters are also voiced in cutscenes, so you really do get an immersive experience.
I thought Lights of an Altar was going to be exciting. I thought there'd be armies.
You need rescuing.
Hey, what is it? Who's there?
How am I supposed to know that fucking altar to my face? Do I look like I need rescuing?
Hold on. I'll destroy anyone who gets close.
Oh, yeah, sure. Just as soon as you get your pants up from your goddamn ankles.
Yeah, as soon as I do that,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
dead.
you know what? All I do.
This capture comes from a mid to high level area showing a completely new hub called Trench Town and introducing us to new quest types, including hunting monsters and collecting bounties for wanted individuals, which you'll get from 2 named NPCs in the pub, I think it was. It's pretty run down. There's a little bit of an issue in the local area with another altered or 2 that have gone rogue, and unfortunately we turned up at the wrong time and were coaxed into helping out. So Radders and I were thrown headfirst into level 30 quests and some fast and intensive fights, helping out various individuals as we went and learning on the job about our powers. Now there are 4 different classes to pick from in Outriders, and all combine guns with thematic abilities and a chunky RPG leveling system. Firstly, the Trickster, a class modelled on the love child of Neo, Faceless Void and Tracer, a manipulator of time and space that can create pockets of time to slow enemies and projectiles. Fast and nimble, they teleport in and out of close range to do additional damage. Then the Devastator, another close range class, this time with a focus on defending yourself and your allies. Did you enjoy the heck out of ground pounding dudes in Infamous Second Son as Delsin Rowe? If so, you'll like the Devastator. It's the mishmash of the two with some shooting thrown into boot. That's earth bending, people, basically. You're bending the earth with your mind. Due to having skills that are themed around health and armor bonuses, because obviously you're pulling the rock out of the earth to defend yourself and your team, this is the class that would take the front of missions and go first if they were in the group. Next we have the newly announced class, the Technomancer. Radders was playing this during the session with me, so I got to see it in action, and I really, really liked what I saw. If you are an old school engineer from TF2 or you like turrets in Borderlands or Overwatch, this is probably going to be your jam. The Technomancer uses tech, obviously, to do damage to enemies, whether that's a turret, mines, rocket launchers, or whatever. The Technomancer is also the only class to have a dedicated group heal, which did save my life a few times, thank you Radders, but we'll come back to healing a little bit later. Finally, we have the Pyromancer, which is the class I was playing. As a caster in most fantasy games, I'm glad I went for Pyromancer because it was the most flamboyant, of the lot. From a loadout of 8 skills and combined with the existing mods on my gear and weapons, I went with the trio of Eruption, Ash Blast and Thermal Bomb. Eruption is an explosive attack that burns and summons volcanoes under enemies' feet. It's flashy, it's great. Ash Blast, an immobilizing ash cloud that slows or paralyzes enemies in a radius, and then last but not least Thermal Bomb, the best of the lot. A burn and interrupt, plus if the enemy dies whilst afflicted, an additional AoE explosion that hits other enemies and does more damage. It's lovely. Put it on a guy in the middle of a group, stick on Ash Blast so he can't move, unload on him, everybody's dead. Cooldowns were super fast, but if nothing was up, you could switch to using one of your guns in the interim to cause damage, especially when coupling alongside things like the Ash Wave, which would slow enemies anyway. Skills are also further boosted by the use of class points, a comprehensive tree of 3 end builds that you can ping back and forth between as needed to give your firepower a little more oomph. You can also respec for free, so if your gear changes or the experimental build you try isn't working, it's no big deal. As I'd chosen attacks that burn enemies, I went down the centre of the Pyromancer tree, aptly named Firestorm, to increase burn durations or damage with a little dabble into the Ashbreaker area to buff the length of Ash Blast, because I wanted it to obviously hold enemies for as long as possible. The class tree also gives boosts to weapon damage, health, defense and more, and I really liked how the tree is actually kind of more like a web in those initial starting bits to help add even more flexibility to your character progression, because there's nothing worse in a tree having to pick some skill you don't want in a tree really early on, and it's such a waste. So fantastic, just little bits, it's just little things that just make it nicer, you know. In terms of using these skills, it's aggressive and it's fast. You have to get in and attack. You heal via doing damage in a few different ways depending on your class, so it doesn't pay to sit in cover and wait to regen. In fact, it doesn't work. You can only regen up to a third of your health by hanging around, so you will be screwed if you take that approach. Instead, apply a damage over time debuff or kill enemies with those debuffs on to heal up. As with a lot of co-op shooters, dedicated healers are not a thing, and it's mostly down to yourself to manage your own health. The closest we have to that is the Technomancer's singular ability I mentioned previously, but it's not the sole purpose of the class, and it's certainly not something to rely on constantly. After all, it wouldn't make any sense if you were going to solo using that class to have it just be a healer. And since Outriders is 3 players and not 4, it's obviously not an essential part of running a group through the game, since there are 4 classes but 3 players. You see what I'm saying? If you're also finding the combat a little bit too easy for your sick build, yo, because you know you found something that worked, then perhaps you might want to utilise another of Outriders' features, changing the world tier or difficulty level. As with most games that offer this, such as Borderlands and Diablo, it means hard enemies but better gear, so you can make the game as challenging as you want if you're feeling feisty. I liked what it was trying. I also really like the setting. I'm a fan of doom and gloom, you know me, I can't really deny that. And I sometimes find that things like Borderlands are a little bit too cheerful or a little bit meta. Outriders plays like a weird and wonderful combination of so many popular franchises combined. World of Warcraft, Diablo, Borderlands, Destiny, Mass Effect. Infamous Second Son, or any kind of, I don't know, mutant-based game. It's so cool and it's wonderful, and I really, really like it. And I can't wait to have hands-on with it and hopefully do some co-op content later this year in line with Outriders launch, which is currently holiday 2020 at time of recording, but it might be we have a final date a little bit sooner. It might be that that's already been announced in line with the embargo this video was going out to. So I will put a link in the video description to their main website. You can check all the information out there. I would also like to say an extra special thank you to all my followers over on Patreon. You guys have been amazing in the last few months. Thank you so much for your understanding as videos trickle out as and when I have time. Your support means everything. I've actually been donating quite a lot of the Patreon money to some of the causes we've been doing over the last few months. So thanks to you guys, you've helped hit some really cool goals. An extra special thank you to the following people: Rachel, Lottie Pierce, Liam Pillsbury, Lars Eric, Mark Fillan, Helen Chen, and Maid. It's a wonderful way to support content creators, especially as ad revenue on YouTube sucks. At some point over the next few months, I'm hopefully going to be rejuvenating the Patreon tiers a little bit and making them slightly more sensible. We've been running with a model that I set up before the pandemic and it's not quite right. So I'm going to try and make it much more friendly for you guys and for me in terms of the tiers and the rewards. So stay tuned on that. And also a thank you to you for watching this video. Let me know what you thought. I hope you're all staying safe and I will see you at some point in the future for Prince of Persia. And a goodbye.